Mike McCool here in the Royal Examiner Studio, and with me today are three young ladies, and they've been here. All of them have been here before, but and they all have different titles, and they change because they're involved in a lot of things in our community. We're going to start here with Kim, and Mark, put the camera on Kim here, and she's going to introduce herself. Then we'll go to Tammy and Crystal, and they'll tell us what their current titles are, and then we're going to talk about the Phoenix Project and all the great things that are happening this month. Go ahead, Kim.
I'm Kim Lynch, and I'm the fundraising chair for the Phoenix Project and the Wine Pool this year.
All right.
And I'm Tammy. I'm the executive director of Phoenix Project.
Tammy, you don't give out your last name?
Tammy Sharpe. Sorry.
So you make sure everybody knows you.
That's right. And I'm Crystal Cline. I'm the captain at the Front Royal Police Department, but I am also the vice president on the board of directors for Phoenix Project.
And I'm your host. All right. So today we're going to talk about things that are happening at the Phoenix Project. This is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. October is. And if you'll see these purple ribbons and banners all around our community to bring awareness, and we're doing the pinwheels in places as well.
Not the pinwheels
That's
this year.
month.
That's for child abuse
Oh,
awareness
okay. Well,
month.
they're purple.
But yeah, so we really want to bring awareness in Warren County and Front Royal to the issue of domestic violence. It happens all year round, of course,
Right.
but October is the month that nationally we, I won't say celebrate it, but bring awareness.
Sure, bring awareness.
Yeah, honor those that have been victims and try to bring some awareness to the general public too.
Right. So you have classes, I know, and you put on webinars and seminars and brochures and pamphlets and websites and everything else. So what do we have planned this month?
So this month, throughout the month, every Wednesday at the Front Royal Police Department between 12 and 1, we have what we're calling a Lunch and Learn series. So it's meant to be just a drop-in. We have staff that will participate every week with different topics. So an overview of the agency, how domestic violence affects children, for those that are going through the court system, what that looks like, what help is available, and also our housing information. So it's just a really, and it's totally free, just bring your own lunch, pop in. And it's just meant to be an awareness of the agency and a little piece of education about where we are, because as Crystal pointed out, the hashtag for this year is
Everyone knows someone.
They do.
And so, we want to give everyone the opportunity, if someone has experienced that they know that we're here and that's what we do, and they can reach out to us. So,
Excuse me. There's, like you said, it touches almost everyone. It's either your family or your friends or your neighbors. And sometimes there's these telltale signs. Is that how you say it?
yeah.
Right.
Telltale signs. And sometimes we just pull it in and say, well, we're not going to be involved. We're not going to say. And then situations evolve and something comes out worse, and Crystal has to show up in her official capacity there, and that's not good either. I mean, that's a dangerous situation. I know I talked to police officers, and they said, like, the worst thing to go on is a domestic.
It is. It's also the most dangerous.
It's the most dangerous because things happen and change in a heartbeat.
Right.
And emotions are high, and it's a tough call.
So it happens to women and men and everyone. It's not just a woman-only thing.
No.
So
That's right.
Abuse, and it comes in multiple ways. We have physical and mental and spiritual, I guess. We have all sorts of abuses.
Yeah.
But that's
that
one
happen.
of these things that we do for this month, is to educate the people and to honor the victims that have had to go through this.
Right.
And like you said, it happens to women, men, children. It could be your grandparents. It's generational. And when the hashtag is perfect,
Right.
Everyone knows someone, and everybody does. I mean, just recently we had a board meeting, and this is a passion for the people that are involved. It is a passion for me to sit on this board, and the police department is blessed to have such a great relationship and a partnership with Phoenix Project. But the people on the board, they have passion about this. The staff that Tammy has put together is just phenomenal. They share what they've done every single month when we have a meeting. They share not names or anything, everything's anonymous, but some of the tough things that they've had to deal with in the month. And
Right.
it's prevalent, it's everywhere, and we're here to put some resources towards it.
Right. Sometimes it just takes one little initiative or involvement with something, and sometimes a word of encouragement to let people know they're not there. You don't have to put up with this. We have resources and help out there. Just reach out. I'll help you if I can, or if you want me to, I'll help you. Or here's who you need to call. And I think we just all need to do that. But you'll say, if you see something, say something. It almost goes back to that. And we all are touched by it. We just don't really, when we hear something that drastically happens, well, I thought there was something wrong. We all say, I'm sure you've heard that a lot. And it's just something that we need to be involved in. It's one of those things that are kind of like behind closed doors. Am I right? I mean, is that...
Yeah. But this has been going on for a long time. I think Congress enacted this Domestic Violence Awareness Month in October. Said this is when we're doing it, way back in 1989.
Right.
And back then, it was kind of that walk around the block. Our response to it was totally different. And through legislation and through our community and society as a whole, we have changed the whole outlook on how we respond to it.
Sure.
It's no longer an embarrassment. It's not. It's no longer something you have to keep behind closed doors.
Right.
Is as a society we have said this is wrong. We're not going to tolerate it, and I think that's where we are, which I think is just beautiful.
Well, the education of relationships you see more every year. We just see more awareness and things that people are
You're right.
trying to improve their life, and it is. They always say is maybe it should cost more to get married than it does to get rid of a marriage. You know what I'm saying? Maybe we need to have more. And we did that years ago. We had long dating and long courting in class. You know what I mean? And it seems like to now that's kind of the thing of the past. But
and we're not only trying to reach those that have experienced it, right? So we want to make sure that those who are experiencing it they have the resources. We can help them. It's free, confidential. But we also want to prevent it from happening. And that's where the education about what healthy relationships look like.
Exactly.
What are healthy boundaries? Because oftentimes we just don't understand what a healthy relationship looks like.
You've grown up with only
pretty
unhealthy
good at,
ones,
right.
And to you, that's normal.
Right.
Yeah.
And
well,
so
my dad did it, my mom did it, whatever it was, and grandma. And it was just like you said, it's generational.
Right. And so, and that's one of the partnerships we have with the Front Royal Police Department is a lethality assessment program. So, when an officer goes to a domestic violence call, if they are determined by a list of questions to be at high rate for lethality, the officer reaches out to a Phoenix Project staff or volunteer right there at the scene. So we're connecting those victims with our services. So what used to happen is here's a packet of information, there's all kinds of resources, right? And that's a lot. And so this personalizes it. So, and it's twofold. It gets the victim plugged into services
Almost
right away.
immediately, yeah. It's like, here we are, I'm on the phone. Yeah.
And for officers, hopefully as we progress, this is like a year or two old, so it's very new. We were one of the first places in Virginia to have this program. So over the course, we hope to see that officers won't go back to the same address over and over, because if we can intervene and stop that cycle, then that's better for our community all the way around. It's certainly safer for our officers. It's safer for our community. So that's one of the ways that we try to reach out right away.
Right.
I think that's important.
You mentioned this anonymity, so to speak, and when people are looking for information, I can tell you that on their website, they got a little button there. What do you call it? Emergency exit or whatever it is, because people are pretty sophisticated, and and abusers are they're controlling.
Technology.
And so where have you been? Let me look at your search history, and when you click that button, it just gets rid of all that stuff, and no one knows you went to the Phoenix Project and looked at their. First time I heard it, I said, "What? What is that all about?" And it's kind of a great tool that we put on there. So there's no question that people are going to not know. They'll not know that you were on the site looking for this, because that's what happens. You see see it on TV all the time, where they look into their phone, or they look into on their website, and they can
It
tell where
happens
you've been.
in many different forms.
Right.
Yeah.
It does,
And
and tech-
abusers try to isolate their victims
Exactly.
too. And so if they can, this happened so much during the pandemic, abusers trying to prevent people from getting vaccinated, abusers trying to prevent people from seeing a doctor, or, so if people can find the resources and plug in, it's just healthy for everyone.
Well, you can tell there's a lot more awareness, because when you go to the emergency room now, I don't care who and what it is, male or female, anything, and they pretty much have the questions they ask you, and they're
they do.
basically looking for a little awareness or abuse, and they'll instantly report it, but they can pretty well know. Well, I fell down the stairs. Well, you fell down the stairs for the last 4 weeks. I mean,
Right.
And
Phoenix Project has worked with Dr. Ball from the
Royal Family
Front Royal Family Practice for years, and we do a training with their second or third year residents that are going into family practice, and we teach them tools such as screening for domestic violence as a normal part of their treatment of this person.
Sure.
And so that's been very helpful. Just ways that they can, because it's one thing to just go down a checklist and say, are you safe at home? Do you
They're
have
good at
any
hiding.
bruises?
Yeah.
Right.
They've got a lot of practice.
But it's
Yeah.
a different conversation when the physician opens up the conversation
Sure.
more than a yes or no question.
Right.
And so asking, is there any time that you don't feel safe?
Right.
Is
I remember when I
there-
fell down the steps, they asked me, "Are you sure?"
Yeah.
I know my wife. She.
Right.
It was my mother-in-law. That's what I told her.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so we want to prevent, right? The main thing that we want to prevent is a casualty.
Sure.
We want to prevent that at all costs here in Warren County. And so that's why we do what we do, the prevention, the education, the support,
And these are all free services.
free services, which brings us to a really good point.
Sure. How do we pay for these
How do
free
we
ser-
pay for these
Yeah,
services?
right.
So, Kim, you want to tell us about our fundraiser
Yeah,
coming
so
up?
our annual fundraiser, our big one, is the wine pull, and that's coming up on October.
We still have tickets.
That's right.
Always have tickets. We print plenty of tickets.
So October 20th, which is a Thursday, you can come out for a happy hour from 5 to 7 at Blue Ridge Shadows Golf Club. We'll have live music. We have some amazing auction items. And of course, you'll get your bottle of wine.
Sure.
And it's going to be a great time. I love the motto of Phoenix Project. It's a community's response to domestic violence. And when you see some of the generous donations from businesses and individuals,
Right.
and just a big crowd of people for a great cause, it truly is a very strong response.
I noticed that Brett Herbeck here has donated these tickets again.
He has every year.
He's he is very active in things like this, and so we'll give him a big plug at Edward Jones. But
Well,
yeah,
actually,
it's-
and Susan Herbeck, Brett's mama,
yeah.
it was actually, that is who brought this fundraiser to Phoenix Projects, because we were a new agency. It's really hard to find fundraisers that not everybody is doing. And she
Sure.
had this amazing idea, and we started, the first year we did it, and it's just grown. But it was Susan Herbeck
There you go.
who was on our
That's what
board
it
at
takes.
the time.
Someone's got to spearhead. I always say someone's got to drive the boat.
They do.
Someone's
And
got to get out there.
that is Susan.
That's great. So there's a lot of people in our community. We were just talking earlier today to Michelle Smeltzer and Philip Vaught, talking about the thermal shelter and things like that, and all these great things that our community have. People are out there driving the boat. You know, they're out there spearheading these things, and they all have passion about it. And the Phoenix Project is no different. And
Right.
But that's what's important about the community is we do
Right.
have
Sure.
great people here to spearhead it.
Sure.
But I know that there is a big population out there in Front Row and Warren County that want to help, but maybe don't want to get their hands into it, or
Right.
maybe they don't
Right.
have the time. But here's the thing, we need resources because we're expanding services
Sure.
at the Phoenix Project.
Absolutely.
I know the thermal shelter is as well.
Sure.
It always comes down to, are we able to do it? Do we have the funding for that? And I would hate to turn anybody around, woman, man, child who has domestic violence,
Sure.
has had a domestic violence incident or a sexual assault incident or something, and turn them away. So it is
Right.
so important. So I implore people and come buy a ticket. You don't even have to go buy a ticket, or just donate.
If this is not your thing, the $20
yeah.
is great. It's $60. Well, but you'll take 20. I mean, it doesn't have to be a big amount. It's
No.
like, I was telling earlier, we need to be gracious givers. Our blessing becomes in the giving,
You're right.
and that's where it is. And premeditated giving, and we need to find a passion that you have and set up that, and just if it's $10 a month, it's $10 a month.
Yeah, that's right.
It doesn't have to be $1,000. I mean, that's good too, but there's some people, it's what you can afford to do and what you give from the heart, and I think that's
Right.
what is where the blessings come from. And I think our community has always come together. Look how
Yes,
long the Phoenix
we are
Project's been going. How many years? It's been quite a few
Since
years.
2014.
That's right. I mean,
sometimes
that seems like yesterday, but really
Right.
how long that's been.
we're a new agency,
Yeah.
across the state.
Sure.
We have, most of the agencies have been 25, 30 years.
Right.
And so we have come an incredible
Almost 15
distance.
years. So that's a long time, and it's all happened because of people in the community coming forth
Absolutely.
and making it happen, either in their time and their service and volunteering,
Yep.
and their monetary gifts that they've given. So it's great.
We're doing our annual appeal this year in October. Normally, most nonprofits do their annual appeal around the end of the year,
Right.
the calendar year. But we really wanted to focus on getting our message out earlier than that.
We want to be
because-
first. We don't want to be
Right,
last.
right. Well, there's people who, those that have the means are planning for their end of year giving, end of the year
They may not
giving.
have never heard of the Phoenix
And
Project.
they may never have thought about, so things like, for financial planning, legacy gifts, those are new areas that we want to explore. Those, because the part about being totally supported by grants is that depends on the federal budget that trickles down through the state.
Yes,
and we
and
all
it takes
know
a
that
long
that
time
is,
for that.
yes.
You work on it today, and maybe next year we'll
Right.
get an answer.
Right.
And so
And the funding changes.
and
It
the
does.
funding changes, the funding streams dry up. So
And it's becoming an art to write grants, and you can't rely on them. That's great to get them, but you got to be out there, and the community's got to be behind supporting it. And I think that's what we.
and that's
they
what
will.
it takes. That's what it takes because grants also want to know after this money is gone, how are you going to continue to do this
Exactly.
program? And so that's called sustainability. And Phoenix Project was started by the community. It is driven by the community and funded in part by the community. And so that's really important.
Yeah, it's great. Well, we have good people on your board.
Yes,
We
and
have
that-
an
and that's-
awesome board.
And that's what it takes to make it work. And putting on these events, you don't have to go to the event. You can just send your checks.
But you're not going to want to miss it because
No,
it's
it
it is
fun.
so much fun.
and it's also, there's something good about going to the convention, even if it's not your thing. You might not want to go to a wine pull or something, but your neighbor will be there. And but just meeting around, people and finding like-minded people, it kind of, you come up with great ideas for the next event, concepts, and also the education you get out of it. So
Right.
it's something that we need to do, between the Phoenix Project and the thermal shelter and all. When people are going to be reaching out, and but find something that you are passionate about and become a part of it.
Right.
That's great.
And
Again,
that's, we work with all community partners. It's so important, and I'm sure you've heard this a million times. to work with other community partners, because it's impossible for me to serve all the need.
Exactly.
Just like it is for any other nonprofit. And so we're not in a place of competition. We're not
No.
in a place of who gets the most. And it's how can we work together.
Right. Because you have to direct
provide.
sometimes your clients into.
And that's some of
Other-
what we do. We get an assessment for all of their needs, no matter what they are, and there's no way we can meet them all.
Right.
And but we know who to send them to, and we don't just say here, call here.
Right.
We say call Michelle at DSS.
And let me get her on the phone
Let
for
me
you.
call
Yeah,
her.
that's right.
Or do you want me to sit with you while you make
Right.
this call? So it's the same.
And that's
for-
an important
for
thing. I
anything.
notice you do that is you do a lot of hand holding. And
It's
I
warm
get-
handoffs. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
more than just saying, much like the police department decided to do, instead of just handing them some information,
Right.
they decided, they made the commitment, because this is an extra step for the officers.
Right. Well, we talked before about the community policing initiative that's going around through the country.
Yeah.
And we find that works.
Well, I will tell you that it's so frustrating. Back when I was on the road many years ago in patrol,
Last
is that
year.
we would go to a domestic call and we would give, like say this is a packet of information that has numbers, to the shelter and everything else on here, and we would come a week later and that information is still sitting in the same place that it was. So if it's 3:00 in the morning, we feel better saying, hey, you know what, we have someone for you to talk to, and we can sit there and call 3:00 in the morning, and they answer.
Right. Because I know you have a 24-hour line.
They
you know?
answer, and it's local. It's our local community,
Right.
Right.
that is answering the phone, and they're like, hey, let's set up a meeting and let's talk.
Right.
So in their neediest hour, when everything is happening, they're talking to someone right there to say, hey, I have a place to go, either right then at that
Sure.
time where they have to leave,
Sure.
or in the morning or the next afternoon they're meeting with them.
It's easy to put it off. No, it's okay now. It's okay now. And I'm sure
Right.
we hear that a
Yes.
lot.
And the victim doesn't have to talk to us, right? So if the police officer says, may I call an advocate for you, and that person says, I'm not interested, that is fine too.
Yep.
But he's going to ask that every time he or she is going to ask that question
Maybe
every
more than-
time they go
maybe
back.
more than once.
But
Yeah,
just to
but sometimes
always
that's
keep
what
it
it takes.
open, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
so that's one of the great
But,
things.
I would like to put in perspective a little bit, and I wanted to pull up the stats
Okay.
for what is happening and stuff. And so for just domestic violence calls in through 2020, which we were right there in the middle of the pandemic and everything, our domestic calls increased by over 11%
Right.
from 2019.
Right.
So just to put it in a little perspective, and not everybody calls when there's
Sure.
a domestic situation. These are the ones that we went to, 578 in 1 year. That's in 375 days.
Wow.
That's in our community, my
Just the
jurisdiction.
town of Front Royal.
Just the town of Front Royal.
Yeah. And you add into the county.
And you add into the county and all the ones that didn't call every time,
Yeah.
or maybe this time, maybe they'll call next time or something. We have a problem here in Front Royal, and we're fighting the good battle, but we need everybody to fight this battle.
Right. If you get 500 people that you get called on, it probably represents 10 times. It's like they say when people call or complain at a restaurant or any kind of thing, you get one complaint, that's like 10 people.
Right.
Because people do that. Or it's not as bad as it was the last time. Or these are the really bad calls, and they should have called sooner. So don't be afraid to call. That's-
Yeah. And some, to Crystal's point, during the pandemic, when everyone was encouraged to stay home, work
Sure.
from home, schools were out, victims had no escape.
Right.
So if the abuser is living in the home and working in the home and the family's together 24/7,
24/7, yeah.
there's not even a chance to call. So what we saw was, even though our calls stayed high during the pandemic, and it's by no means over, but now that people are moving back to working in the office and that type of thing, some of our services have increased by 200%.
Wow.
And we are still staffed with the same number of people, still working with the same amount of money, but the need for that service is just continues.
Well, what's happening is
to
the
increase.
abuser is left to do something.
Sometimes.
And the victim is still there. Now they have an opportunity to call before you go back to the controlling thing.
Right.
It's hard to sneak somewhere and,
Yeah.
call
Absolutely.
or go. Yeah.
And our children. Our
Yeah.
children
And
were
our
home
children
That's right.
during this time.
Yeah.
With no
Because I know the
outlets.
schools are really watching things like that. Again, they have their signs of.
And we work really
abuse.
closely with Warren County Public Schools. Our child advocate actually, with the parents' permission, of course, can go into the school and work with students there. And also, we're starting to plan to increase the prevention services in schools. So
great.
it takes all of that
Yeah.
to really start making a difference. And I will work myself out of a job
That's
if I'm
what you
able.
want. That's what you want. Well, we want to thank you all for coming in and making us aware of Domestic Violence Awareness Month and all the great things that happen.
tickets.
Yeah, tell them where they can get their tickets.
Yes.
You come to the police department. I still have tickets available.
Kim has tickets.
I have tickets. You can also order them right online.
Yep.
Right?
And they're $60, $65 at the door, so you want to buy ahead.
Sure.
But there's plenty, and it's going to be a great time.
But you get a night of entertainment.
Yep.
You get a bottle of wine. And here's the fun
Yeah.
part. You might get, as I always say, they laugh at me, a bottle of Boone's Farm because, some of us are Boone Farm. Or you might get like $100 bottle of wine. That's the fun
That's
in
why
it.
they call it a pull. You like, you don't know
You
what
don't know
you don't
what
get a
you're
choice. Yeah,
getting.
you get a
Right,
pull.
and there's also wine tasting certificates. So your bottle of wine might have a tasting for 4 at one of our
Sure.
wonderful vineyards.
Right.
That's right.
So it's fun. It's just fun. We try to keep it upbeat. The work that we do is serious, but we do know how to entertain and have a good time,
That's
as
right.
I always like to think about
Sure.
it. So there's wonderful food. Blue Ridge Shadows has been
Sure.
awesome to work with.
Phenomenal.
Brian there is just very community minded and given, and he's donated himself some rounds of golf and
Sure.
including the cart and fee.
That's
and
nice.
that's
Yeah.
expensive.
Sure. Yeah. So
I
it's
know
all
my
happening-
husband's a golfer.
I know. So
It's
this is all
expensive.
happening on October the 20th at the
Yes.
Blue Ridge Shadows Golf Club.
Yep.
It's $60. Buy the tickets ahead of time. This is
5
all
to
going.
7.
It's all going to being donated.
100% go into client funds. You're not donating money or giving Phoenix Project money to pay salaries.
Right.
You're not donating money to pay our rent. All of this goes into helping clients.
That's great. That's great. Well, we appreciate it. And again, follow up on their website, phoenix-project.org.
It's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. And I'll put that link here in the story and where they can click on and buy their tickets. It's great. It's another great thing in our community. So please participate. When you see all these purple ribbons and banners
Bows,
around
yeah.
our community, be aware of what's happening, and it's a great thing.
Right. And if you're a business that wants a bow to display at your business, along with, we just have a really short, sign, we'd happy to bring it to
Sure,
you.
yeah.
We encourage everybody. My vision is every year we do a little more, and so
Sure.
one day the whole town will be painted purple.
I remember we started with 4 banners on the sign.
Yes,
now we
you've
got
made every banner. How
now
many
we got
do we
20
have
of them or
now?
something on there. So
Yeah.
they've expanded every year, so it's
Yeah.
great. But it's a lot of great work that you do, and we appreciate it and appreciate your board members and all the
Yes,
great
I
things. And thank you
appreciate them.
for coming in and making us more aware of domestic
Thank you for
violence.
having us.
Sure.
Yes,
thank you.
thank you.
Appreciate it.